All right, the Reds, it's Talking Reds. I'm no longer the deputy. We've got rid of Robbo, haven't we? It's like Craig and Cope. We're here to stay.
The new regime.
Yeah, the new regime, yeah. What an exciting time for both our new regime and for Liverpool as well. We're into the quarterfinals of the Champions League for the first time since 2009. It was a strange game, Paul, because we've waited for this game for so long. I feel as if watching Liverpool in the Champions League knockouts was what my childhood watching football was about, and I've sort of waited this long now. And you wait for this big tie, and you're thinking it's going to be amazing. Anfield's going to be rocking. And then we beat them 5-0, which is amazing because we're brilliant and we're showing everyone that we're the best team in Europe. But it sort of made that tie a dead rubber last night, didn't it?
Yeah, footy's mad. I might write something on this for the site today. It's I was chatting in the match about it that if you're a manager, what you want to create is what happened. Is you want to go away and win 5-0 and then come home and it doesn't mean anything because you can just sort of rest everyone, and even the lads who are playing are just having a little bit of a walk around. But as footy fans, it's rubbish, really, isn't it? You were at Goodison last year, weren't you, for the last minute winner?
Yeah.
And the reality is, those games are well better. Winning the European Cup, going 3-0 down, and then coming back and all of that drama, that's just a well better way to watch footy, and winning games in the last minute and beating Dortmund 3-2 and all the rest of it. But that's not the intention of the managers ever, is it? They don't actually want to do that. So I think the big thing to learn from last night for all of us, and I think we do need to talk about this a bit more, is we should just be enjoying it a bit more.
Oh, yeah.
If you'd have shipped someone in at the end of that game and said, just looking at the two sets of fans, which one of these clubs has won 5-0 on aggregate and who's going through to the quarterfinals, you'd have said it's 100% Porto, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Their lads are all bouncing up and down with their scarves out singing, and we're all just sort of sloping off. There were people, Ben John and Adam got off at half time because the fella in front of them was doing their head in. Do you know what I mean?
And do you know what they got up to instead?
They went to town and they had a nice
That's
pint
fair,
and all that.
I feel like that's
you can
fair.
actually spot it in his ratings. Actually, there's little bits where there's only things he would have seen by watching it on telly.
Just before we get into the Porto game, the rest of the game last night, what about Ben Johnno's ratings? Unless you've not seen them, they're wild. They're unlike any match ratings I've ever read, really. Gary Lineker tweeted about them at the weekend. Rory Smith, who I think's the sports editor of the New York Times, he tweeted about it. Have you talked to Ben Johnno since that?
Last night, yeah, before the game, we just had a brief chat. I was messaging about it as soon as I saw it on Sunday, because for those who don't know, and this we could spend half an hour talking about this, that's how much I love it. Basically, someone a while ago called Ben Johnno the funniest man in football, and we've never heard the end of it since. It just brings it up all the time. So now he thinks he's funnier than every comedian in the country. So when Lineker referred to his ratings, he called them quite amusing. That was it. So to most people, that'd be great, because Gary Lineker's said something about your stuff and he's quite amusing. But I was like, he'll be fuming about that, because he's downgraded him from the funniest man in football to just quite amusing. So what I want everyone to do now, if you follow Jono on Twitter, if you don't, start following him today, at Benjani Johnson, I think it is. And whenever he says anything, just reply to him saying, quite amusing, that mate. That's it.
Never laugh again.
Never laugh at anything he says ever again. If you comment on his ratings, say quite amusing, that mate, and that's it. We'll just see if we can drive him insane.
Well, I heard that he was in his house. He was refusing to respond to anyone in the house unless they called him the king of the internet at the weekend, which I thought was brilliant, and probably well deserved, I'd say. He doesn't watch this, so I can say that. I don't feel
he doesn't watch any of this.
I don't want to get his head any bigger than it already is. But we'll get back to Porto as well. I think we'll maybe talk about the lineup first of all. Was there any surprises for you in terms of there were a lot of players that get minutes and players that needed minutes, and we're going to need to rely on them at some stage, the likes of Lallana and so on. But were there any surprises in the first team lineup when you saw it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's loads of different ways of looking at this, and in fairness to Klopp, I think there were people kicking off because he sort of said in his press conference that he wouldn't rotate. But I think people need to sort of get onto the fact now that he doesn't necessarily mean what you literally think he means, because
all managers are liars as well.
Exactly. Really. If you just work off that basis, then it's easier, and just don't get carried away with it. But I could tell what he was basically saying is, my lads are all good, so it's not rotation because it's going to be a good team, whatever. And I think we are getting to the point where that is true. But the biggest surprise for me was like Firmino playing at all. I'd have thought he'd have had a rest, because the other thing is, in a game like that, it's dead hard. If these are humans, we bang on about this all the time, but if you're Bobby Firmino and you know you're playing United on Saturday, you don't want to be putting in You 100%.
You've got nothing to prove either.
Exactly. So I personally would have just played Ings from the start, and I'd have played Lallana in midfield, because I know the whole idea is give him 90 minutes and get it into his legs, but we all know he can't play in the front three really.
Yeah, play him in the position that he's most likely to come into the side at some stage.
Yeah.
I think I agree on that. The Firmino point, that was the surprising one for me really. I think he was probably the player most in need of a rest, but he's the one that plays. He gets brought off in 60, doesn't he? And they'll have the day off today. I think it's interesting you say that about players having something to prove, because if you look at the performance of Danny Ings whenever he comes on, he was probably, he kind of eliminated the tie a little bit in terms of like he brought something to it. There was energy, he was busy, you could tell he had something to prove, he wanted to show people, and he was glad to be back, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it's I think people get hung up on, if you rest in players, you're not playing your first team and stuff, but I think there is a strong argument for, but if you're playing lads like Ings, you're going to get far more out of him than you're going to get out of Firmino. Even if it's just that 1 or 2%, because there's a little bit of a drop off when in Firmino's effort, which it sounds like a mad thing to say, because there's probably never a drop off in Firmino's effort, is there? Yeah. And in fairness to Klopp as well, when he brought Salah on at the end, and we're all sitting there thinking, what are you doing this for? Like, if he gets injured now, just all hell's going to break loose.
Squeaky bum, wasn't it?
Yeah, but like Klopp's comments were sort of, well, he can play for 20 minutes now at this intensity and not train tomorrow.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think when we're talking about these types of games, that game for those players was probably not as intense as a training session under Klopp.
That's what I said. Like, we make the joke on this show quite a bit that I'm reading Raphael Honigstein's book, and I have been for the last 8 months, I think. I haven't finished it yet. I'm getting there. I feel like with every holiday I read about maybe 35 pages. But one of the things, one of his ex-players, I think it was Gundogan, talks about when he joined Borussia Dortmund, and he was taken aback by Klopp's training methods and how intense they really were. And some of the matches they were playing, it was 5-on-5. I think it was Subotic actually said this, 5-on-5, end to end, and that's how they learned to become a great counter-attacking side. But he said at the end of it, you were done in. You were completely done in. Sometimes more so than a proper match under a previous manager. So that's a good point. I loved Klopp saying that last night, where he basically said, I told him that if he runs enough, he gets the day off today. So Salah's gone, all right, that sounds all right. Yeah. Do you think any lads stake a claim for Saturday? I'm thinking Milner.
Yeah, well, I think it's a bit of a mad one anyway, isn't it? Because I've got this thing at the moment where I keep saying to people, if you had to pick a Champions League final team now, who would be in it? And all of a sudden, especially in midfield, it's not easy at all, because up until a week and a half ago, James Milner had 2 or 3 of his best games in a Liverpool shirt back to back, I think. Yeah. He was brilliant, and then and lots of us saying on the shows and in articles and things, we'd written him off really, and then he sort of comes back again. And I heard him in his press conference before the game saying, I'm only 32. Some would say I'm in my prime and stuff like that. So we're all starting to write him off, and he's going no. But then Oxlade-Chamberlain comes in, and he has 2 games brilliant back to back. And I mean, I've just been chatting to someone outside. I know Henderson splits opinion. I just don't get it really. Like, if you think Jordan Henderson's not a good footballer, I don't know what you're looking for in a footballer. Well, I do know what you're looking for. You're looking for Graham Souness. I keep having this conversation. People who don't want Jordan Henderson if you follow the conversation right the way to its natural conclusion, who they want is Graham Souness. You can't have Graham Souness, so let's stop talking about it.
How many Graham Sounnesses are there in the world, or even that kind of player now? Do you know what I mean? There's even defensive midfielders. There's not that many anymore, and Klopp just isn't interested in that. Now, I know he's been linked with Jorginho, but that almost feels like a bit of a Chan replacement for me. But anyway, I think Milner. I think United is a difficult one. I think Milner, just because he's an old head, and because it's that kind of game that, with the likes of Matic in midfield that United have, maybe I would maybe go with Milner, but again, that's difficult, because it feels like I've been hyping Oxlade-Chamberlain up over the last couple of games, because he's been excellent. It's probably been his 2 best back-to-back performances in a Liverpool shirt. He's been assisting, and he's shown intelligence and maturity that I wasn't expecting when we were signing him from Arsenal.
Yeah, he had something now that he's sort of got into his stride. He had something none of the others had, I think, because he's got that strength and the pace from midfield where he can beat a man, and a few of the others can do that. Were you surprised, going back to surprised by the team sheet? Were you surprised that Henderson and Chan both played?
I was a little bit. I thought that maybe we'd see one of them. I actually thought he would rest Henderson. I thought he would keep him for Old Trafford. Willery decided he just needed games. I'm not sure, but was Wijnaldum. I think Wijnaldum was still ill, so Wijnaldum wasn't in with a shot of even starting, I think, or playing. I'm glad do you know what? I think the fact that he's rested Oxlade-Chamberlain maybe possibly means that there's a place for him in the lineup on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I would love there to be, because I think after the 2 performances, he just needs to build on them now. And Klopp picking him in a game like United, the magnitude of that, where we can go second, it's such a big game for us. The fact that he would even think about picking him just shows the sort of strides that Oxlade-Chamberlain's making in the Liverpool top.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen some comments made about this recently, and when people are talking about Wenger and Arsenal, and they had that spell in the cup final where they're just sort of walking round, and someone said, well, Oxlade-Chamberlain was part of that not that long ago, and he's not now. Yeah. So you need to have a little look at your manager there, don't you? If you're an Arsenal fan, and I know they all are, including Sam, probably behind the camera. But yeah, a huge amount of credit to Klopp as well. Like the strides he's made in such a short time. Obviously, people have thought he's had potential for a long time now, and he was always just, will he fulfil it? And we don't want to get too carried away. He's had a few good games in a run, but when people talk about how difficult it is to get used to the way Klopp plays and the systems and all and the intensity, as you say, then he's done well, hasn't he, for the short space of time he's had, the number of games he's had as well. He hasn't played that much, so
definitely, I think, and fair play to Klopp as well, because he's seen something in a player that a lot of people were doubting, and our fan base wasn't exactly thrilled when we signed Oxlade-Chamberlain right at the end of the transfer window. We wanted Lamar, we wanted the exciting exotic signing. We got Oxlade-Chamberlain, someone that we've been told didn't really. I love Ben Jono called him a Doombrian in one of his post-match ratings, or that he thought he was a Doombrian, and that's what Arsenal fans were telling him. And we sort of got this mature, confident player that has an eye for a pass and is making great decisions. So yeah, any thumbs up for Oxlade-Chamberlain there yet, Sam, or is it a thumbs down still from you? Thumbs up. What a day. The draw's March 16th. Who do you want? Where do you want to go? When you're thinking about who we want in the next round, are you thinking about the next European away?
Yeah,
about who we might be able to beat, the glamour tie?
I heard you talking about this on the Pink, and the two lads, my two mates who I go to the match with, neither of them were at the game for different reasons last night, so I was sitting between two people I sort of know, and which makes it more difficult when it's a crap game, because you're making small talk for an hour and a half, which is not an easy thing. But the girl sitting next to me said, do you go to away European games? And I realised that I've probably been to as many European finals as I have been to normal away games. Yeah. And I immediately thought, that's going to change this season. So, yeah, I want somewhere. It was nice to see Emre Can saying he doesn't want an English team. I like that. Yeah. We don't want English teams. They're boring. That's not what this is all about.
We don't want to go on a European away to Manchester, do we?
No. And well, the other thing I love about Europe, and I was saying this in the match last night, I love that you can just enjoy the away fans. Like, they're singing their colours. They could be calling us all kinds, and we just don't know. But you know what I mean? They nice? they could be doing all the nonsense songs that I hate about where's your famous atmosphere and all that. But I can't speak Portuguese.
It's a library in Portuguese, isn't it? And we're going.
And I'm going, nice, they're lovely. Yeah, clap them off at the end and all that. So I love all that. So I don't know, I immediately thought I wanted Barcelona, but then I think you might have said on the Pink there's the whole Suarez thing, and I think there's a little part of me that's like, let's not get too carried away just yet, do you know what I mean? They do have Messi and Suarez up front, so that is a little bit of a problem for anybody. Although saying that, I'm doing it, let's keep our feet on the floor. My feet have well gone, I'm booking flights to Kiev and stuff now, so... Yeah, I don't care. I wouldn't mind Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't even know who else is in it. I don't notice that much.
I was trying to think. I think I said I'd quite like Roma last night. I thought, but then it's maybe a moody away to go to.
But we need practice for Kiev. I was thinking this because some of my mates are saying to me, "Are you actually going to go to Kiev?" I'm like, "Yeah, why?" And he's like, "You might get killed." I was like, "Nah, we'll be fine."
Just go to boxing for a bit.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I've been training, right. I'll be sound. But Roma might be a good warm-up for it, so we'll have it, it's halfway moody. Do you know what I mean?
If anything kicks off, can you imagine me in it? Like, I'm not gonna do well. I'm not gonna fare well.
They won't kick off on you. YouTube's Craig Hannan.
Well, you're talking Red's Copy now.
Well, exactly. Do you know what I mean? We'll just sacrifice Robbo. It's not needed anymore.
He'd love it. He'd be straight in.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think like nobody wants the Reds, do they? Nobody wants Liverpool at the minute, and that's the most exciting thing. Everyone will be watching, despite even what happened last night with the draw. I actually said on the pink, like, I almost think last night might be even a good thing in that it almost like lulls people into like opposition teams in a false sense of security, whereby they watch the first leg and they go, fucking hell, look at Liverpool, like we want to stay away from them, and then they watch the second leg and they go, they're not up to much, that Liverpool side, aren't they? They're a bit boring. And you think, well, we're going to surprise them. I think that's one of the things I've written down here, potentially 4 English. Now, it doesn't look likely. I don't think Chelsea will go through. But I think one of the reasons we would want to stay away from the English teams is not least the fact that we don't get a nice European away, but it's also the fact that they probably know what we're about more so than a Barcelona or a Shakhtar or something like that. It feels like we surprised Porto. It feels like we surprised ourselves almost with how good we are, but it feels like we surprised Porto in the first leg, and I think that's something that you'd want in the next round rather than a Tottenham who we've faced so many times before under Klopp.
Yeah, I said a while ago that even last season I was saying the Champions League is made for us. It's made for a Klopp team playing like this. But that's only if we're playing teams from other leagues who will come and attack us. The problem we've got with City or Spurs is their quality as well. Like they're used to playing us. They know how to play us. So I do think if we got City or Spurs, it could be a bit of a toss of a coin. They could be an amazing two-legged game, but I wouldn't be as confident. This is, maybe it sounds mad, but maybe, do you know what? Maybe City are the best team in Europe, so it's not that crazy. I wouldn't be as confident going up against them as I would be going up against Barcelona, which sounds mad in itself, doesn't it? But I think we're all about the romance of the European Cup, and romance is more Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich than it is Man City. Do you know what I mean? It's
definitely
as simple as that.
Liverpool as a club are football romantics. Like I've got down here, I was going to mention as well, the new banner last night was brilliant from the Spine Cop lads on the Cop. Win a European Cup for me, so simple, but like when I saw that, it got me going a bit. And the new song as well. I think it's an old Napoli song, the LA song. It got an airing last night for the first time, and I think with these songs, it almost feels like they're born out of the beginnings of something. You think of Ring of Fire in 2005. You think of Three Little Birds from Bob Marley from the Europa League run under Klopp as well. And was such a good song. Like we've talked before at times about Anfield's atmosphere and about the lack of new songs and stuff, but you sort of, when we're in moments like this where we've got so much to look forward to, that's when the new songs come out, isn't it? And that's coming from a fan base that are excited about what this team can achieve, and even the words of it, conquered all of Europe and we're never going to stop. So yeah, it feels as if there's something stirring amongst our fan base at the minute, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's nice to be back to this sort of level, isn't it? And it was even nice seeing Klopp in his post-match press conference saying, because he's doing the thing of trying to sort of keep everyone calmed down a little bit. At one point he said, I don't want to play it too far up and I don't want to play it too far down. But there was a little moment where he said, you could just see a smile on his face, and he said, yeah, it's nice to be in the last 8 of the Champions League. This is not something we're used to, and that's my big thing about this is we need to enjoy it more. And I think there's plenty of us who want to enjoy it. I think we need, like games like last night. I know it's difficult. Everyone's got jobs and stuff like that, so you're not going to get the passes out as easily as if you play in Bayern Munich and you need to win and all that. But at the end of the day, no one really knows, so just make it up. Like I was saying about all the Porto lads and girls who came across for that trip. Imagine that conversation in their houses. So we're going to Liverpool for a few days for a match. Is it an important match? Yeah. Yeah. What score is it? It's close. Just don't worry about the score. Don't watch the telly for a bit. We're going for 3 days. It'll be sound.
I like the idea that they've just decided, look, we're just going to go over and have a bit of a piss up. Like they seem to be enjoying themselves in town yesterday, and in the ground as well. But yeah, it's an exciting time to be a Liverpool fan, I think, and stick with the Anfield wrap at the moment because we've got loads coming up during this European run as well. We'll go on to the papers now. All right, then it's the papers. Are we going to make up stuff? Or
Yes.
are we going to... Right, okay, Paul Cope was going to make up stuff because there isn't that much in the papers today. I think most of it is around Liverpool, so onwards and upwards, and no alarms, no surprises. We think that's a Radiohead lyric. That's from James Pearce. There's a bit about Spurs and Juve. Do you think Spurs will go through, or do you think it'll be Juve?
They draw 2-2 away.
Yes.
Don't really care, if I'm completely honest.
I'd like Juve to go through because I'd rather, if we're going to get drawn against one of them, I'd rather get drawn against Juve.
Yeah.
Which feels strange when you're talking about Spurs, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It feels a bit dirty saying that. But
No, you've convinced me there. That didn't take much, did it? Yeah. I hope Juve win. I hope Juve batter them.
I love this as well. I don't know if you can see that. It's Gattuso ahead of the AC Milan Arsenal game tomorrow night. Obviously, they're in a good run at the minute. I think they're the informed team in Europe. 13 unbeaten? Yeah. He says, we need to play ugly with dark circles under our eyes. I love that. I forgot how much I love Gattuso. He's a proper little pit bull. Didn't realise he's actually half Scottish, but you can sort of see it now. He's
Everyone's
like
half Scottish now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Is that like the new cool thing?
I used to love him as a player. I loved that they've got him here, Joe Jordan, the bust up with him and Joe Jordan. That's brilliant. But I love that quote there. Good luck, Arsene Wenger. By the way, I wouldn't fancy going into the San Siro with that kind of mentality.
Do you know what Sammy, you mentioned, who doesn't really exist. We just say it to pretend someone's behind the camera.
There's no one there.
There's no one
we
there.
Just set up the camera.
We were saying before, like, is it a good time to be an Arsenal fan? He said no. And I think, like, for that tie especially, I think Carragher might have said after the last couple of games, the Arsenal fans, the home game against City after the cup final, where people just didn't turn up.
Oh yeah.
And he said it's got to a point now where there's just a general feeling of apathy around the club. And I always think in any organisation, in any relationship, apathy is the worst emotion you can have, because if people are angry or people are happy and excited, whatever, then there's something to work with. But as soon as people are just apathetic towards things, it's just like, oh, just put them out their misery now. And you definitely don't want to be apathetic going into a game with him, do you? No. Like the absolute lunatic Gattuso.
He'd be ready to kill.
He'll rip them apart.
He
might actually kill someone.
I might actually watch it.
Yeah,
if I knew that might happen. Yeah. I think I'm at the stage of Arsene Wenger now where I just feel sorry for him, and that's exactly what you're saying there.
Yeah.
He's like the old gentleman. I remember Arsene Wenger being a manager from, well, as long as I can remember, pretty much. Remember watching football, and I'm just at that stage now where I feel like I said it in yesterday's show, but like the last 10 years have just tainted his first 10 years, if you know what I mean. And that's a sorry sight, and I know it's a rival and we shouldn't feel like that. And it's sort of nice to see a malaise at Arsenal, but I don't feel as if it's a nice thing to see Wenger have to go through at the minute. And it's not a nice thing for their fans either.
Yeah, it's weird this, isn't it? Because like, I'm one of those that in most rivalries, I think that there's got to be an element of respect. Like we need each other. Looking at the other games, like the Real Madrid PSG, one of the problems PSG has got, if they want to win the European Cup, is they don't have enough big rivalries in their own league. So when they come to play Real Madrid, I was saying this on the review show earlier in the week about teams coming to play us, and most teams in our league don't get to practice playing against us and City enough, so it's a surprise every time they play us. Same for the likes of PSG. Like, you don't have enough rivals, you don't get to play at that intensity, so then when you do play at that intensity, you're always going to be a couple of percent off it. And it's the same, like, we need teams like Man United and Arsenal around us, because it keeps firing us forward. And I think things like that are quite sad. And I think it's funny that you say, Joe, with his last 10 years, ruin his first 10 years, but he'd say, well, I think he said the other day, I've won more FA Cups than Liverpool in their history. So it's mad that we're saying, like, it's this pathetic now, but it has got, I think it's because of his age as well. It's got to a point where it's just a bit like, he's like an old man who's...
It's exactly what you say. It's put him out of his misery, isn't it? PSG go out last night. What a photo that is, by the way. I think that's of the PSG fans. We're just talking there.
Just set themselves on fire because they got beat.
Look, well, yeah, actually, I can't work out if they're having a terrible time or in that picture. Yeah. Ronaldo fires Real into the last 8. We were talking a little bit about off air about whether we'd actually want Real Madrid in the next round, because they're a really weird team, aren't they? They haven't had the best of seasons this season, but Zidane's won 2 European Cups, which is mad. You said before, it isn't talked enough about. That isn't talked about enough.
Yeah, it's a really crazy one. It's one of those that, because people don't mention it that much, I start questioning my own psychology. Thinking,
make that
did
up?
it actually happen? Is this something else I've made? This is the problem with making up news. Once you make up too much of it, the lines start to blur and you don't know which are your own memories and which are just stuff you made up. But it's nuts. Like, he won 2 European Cups. He wasn't a manager. Like, he was a player. Then he took over the B team for a bit. Was it a year or 2?
I don't even know.
It wasn't long. And then he takes over the first team and wins 2 European Cups in a league. And even after all that, there's still people talking about him getting sacked. And it's phenomenal, really. Like, the job he's done there is absolutely incredible. So, yeah, going back to who would we want in the next round, I'm not sure I would want Real Madrid. At this stage, I don't know. I'm not sure.
He's just Zinedine Zidane, isn't he? He has this aura about him.
Yeah.
And what a footballer! He might be one of the best footballers I've ever watched.
Yeah.
Certainly the most gifted, and the way he controlled balls out of the air. You think of the one against Portugal, where he jumps up and he twists his body. It's just magic, isn't it? It's almost poetry to watch.
Yeah. Well, he had that element as well, didn't he? Of the snide combined with the beauty. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
He'd happily put his studs in your chest.
It's like the film they made about him, isn't it? The film he made about him was the game that he got sent off.
Yeah.
So they filmed the whole game and then he gets sent off, and that just sort of sums him up, because he's absolutely incredible throughout the game, and then he gets sent off, and obviously the way he ends his career, he headbutts. I like that. I like maybe I wouldn't if I was French. Do you know what I mean? It might seem silly, but I like the fact that he'd taken shit like that all his career, and then he thought, they can't do anything to me now. They can ban me, but I'm retiring. Here we go.
Yeah.
Have a bit of this.
I'm a big fan of that as well.
We've got United this weekend. Obviously, it's the big one. It's one of the first ones you look at in the fixture list, isn't it? Josie's been talking about his fans ahead of Old Trafford.
He has, yeah. It's great, isn't it?
I love this. I love this seems to happen all the time. It seemed to happen with Fergie as well, didn't it? And it's obviously it's nice. I think he mentions, you've got the quote there, don't you? He mentions Portsmouth.
Yeah, it's mad. Like, I've got this thing about Mourinho where I used to quite like him. Like, I used to quite like the arrogance and the self-belief, because he could back it up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But doing things like this, it's like he started to lose the plot, and Ferguson could do it because he'd had like a decade of success at the club. Do you know what I mean? So if he criticised the fans, people would be a bit more. But he's come out and said, like, basically they've got 3 big games on the run now. They've got us, and then they've got Sevilla, and then the FA Cup the weekend after. And he said if possible they should give some tickets to the United fans that were at Selhurst Park. And he mentioned Portsmouth and said it was such a small stadium, but the atmosphere was absolutely incredible. In here at Old Trafford, the atmosphere is a bit quiet and there's not very much enthusiasm. That's quite damning, that, isn't it? A few days before the Liverpool game.
I don't really get what he's achieving from saying that, other than giving us something to talk about on Talking Reds, which is nice.
I think that might be why he's done it. He might have heard of us. He might have known there was a new regime and thought, I'll give them this.
Josie's right, your fans are shy. This has been Talking Reds. We've got, I think Sam's going to put up any of the shows that are on today. We've got the post-match show as well. I hope he does. Last time I did something like this, I held up what I thought was a t-shirt and he had it in a handbag. So thanks for that, Sam. It could be anything comes up there.
I'll be disappointed if what Craig just pointed to was what's coming up on the Anfield wrap. It's got to be something else.
Do you know what? Me too. But whenever no one listens to it, we're gonna know why. And we can blame Sam, can't we? So that's what's coming up on the Anfield wrap. Get on our merch as well in our shop. We've got the salad t-shirts. They've been really, really popular. And this has been Talking Reds.